Hello. Do you
Hi.
want to introduce us today?
Yes, this is the coaching mixer, and today we are talking about a surprise topic because I don't know what it is yet. But we're drinking cozy winter beverages.
Yes,
Ooh, nice
ma'am.
mug.
Thank you. I'm the best dad ever today. I don't even know how we have this mug. We don't have children, so I don't know where Jordan got this mug or why, but that's
That's
what we're doing today.
actually even better. I'm a
I
parent and I
see.
don't have any mugs that say best parent of any kind. So there
Now
you go.
I know what to get you for your birthday.
What are you drinking in there?
I am drinking spiked hot chocolate. So it's hot
Ooh,
cocoa with Bailey's in it. It's very
yum.
sweet and very creamy and tasty.
That's so funny. I was
Yes.
gonna go for a hot chocolate. I'm drinking a hot toddy.
Ooh.
Yeah. I don't know what's in it. It's lemon and a cinnamon stick. And I think Steve said it's like bourbon or something. He was like, don't
Okay.
worry, I've got you. I was on a call to like 5 minutes ago and I'm like, I'm coaching mixer. And so he made me this and it's very delicious. It feels very medicinal, like what I would
Is that
drink if I had a sore throat.
okay? So yeah, because I'm like usually liquid medicine is not pleasant to
No, this is
me.
nice. This is like sweet
Good.
and honey and something. Yeah.
Nice. It is nice to have like a warm, cozy beverage when it's really cold outside.
Yeah. I was saying to my kids, I'm like, it's too cold for clouds today. Can't even have clouds. It's so sunny. It's very nice, but
Yeah.
nice from the window.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, ma'am. All right. So today we have a couple of listener Q&As by our MVP listener who we were just talking about before we started recording, Shannon Panzsi. Thank you so much for all of your contributions. She has made like many, many listener suggestions. I
Hmm.
feel like she's kind of curating the podcast at this point.
Yeah. We're basically just talking about whatever she wants us to talk about. So thank you,
Yes,
Shannon.
yes. Thank you, Shannon. You're the best. Um, and so today she had a few different questions. I don't know how many we'll get to.
Okay.
Knowing us, maybe one or like maybe half of one.
Or we like, I don't know if we can really have much to say about this and then talk for an hour.
Yeah, like that SpongeBob, like 1 hour
Hmm.
later meme. Okay, so her first question was, what do you do when something becomes personal in coaching? Or I think that's a different question than the second one, but I'm just going to say it anyway. Like, what do you do when you don't like the person you're coaching, or the person you're coaching says something that you don't like?
I want to hear yours first.
Ah, okay. Um, yeah, I think that I have very different answers for both of these questions. I think when something becomes personal in coaching, like totally natural, that happens quite often. I'm human. I have stuff going on in my life. I think most of the time it's something I just like kind of catch my brain going in a direction and like focus my attention back on the person that I'm coaching. Sometimes I can use it like to the benefit of the coaching, like partner with my humanity in that. If it doesn't feel like it's something that's helpful to bring into the session, like it's bringing up some unmanaged emotions and I'm like not wanting to make it about myself, then I will yeah, just like kind of like bring curiosity back to the client if I can or when I can. um I don't think I've had to do this in a session, but I am open to like maybe just like taking a moment if I'm finding it really challenging to do so, or like pausing and just like kind of calling it out. What do you do?
I'm like trying to think if it's ever happened. I mean, for sure it's happened. I have coached people who have different beliefs. We had our conversation about like different political beliefs or, different religions. We've kind of covered a lot of maybe the more sensitive things that can come up. Um, I remember one instance where something became very personal. The person had, I'll say, a bias about something and said it. And I was just like, oh, that's so interesting. Did you know that I actually have a lot of experience with this topic? And they were like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, really? Tell me more. And it was more like, it didn't have like an emotional reaction. It was just like, oh, this person maybe doesn't know a lot about this, or they've heard a lot of information from people who don't know what they're talking about. Like witchcraft is one I get all the time. People will say something
Mm-hmm.
about like, oh, those scary witches. And I'm like, do you know I'm a witch? And people are like, no. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, what do you think it is when you say that? Not to turn it around and make it about me, but just as a moment of like, so often I think when people are fearful or misinformed about something, it's often because they've never had experience with somebody who knows a little more than them, or they've only had experience where someone comes at them with their
Mm-hmm.
experience. So I'm kind of
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, if you're ever curious about what this actually looks like for someone who's living with it, you know, like if someone said to me, oh well, kids are such a nightmare, i I would have no problem saying, well, I have kids, so that hasn't actually been my experience. I can see why you would probably think that, and I'm sure I would corroborate with that at times, but I
Mm-hmm.
think it can be a different experience than that. And I think when I will try my best, even if it's personal and feels a little sticky, to like do what I think my job is as a coach and just open their mind around thoughts or beliefs that maybe aren't helping them.
Mm-hmm.
If I see an opportunity to do that, I think sometimes people will shy away from doing that if it's about a personal topic. But I'm just like, well, who's going to open someone's mind about something if not their coach in a really safe space, or just say, there's another opinion about that?
Yeah.
It's
I love
hard though, I think.
how, yeah, I love how like non-threatening that is. Like that seems like a great way to just be like, oh, another perspective exists, and
Yeah.
I am proof of that perspective. I also think I like your answer because I think it's more in the spirit of the question. I think like when something becomes personal in coaching, my mind went straight to like if you're going through something and like over identifying with something the
Right.
client is going through, like what do you do?
Oh,
But
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
but I think what you're
I thought you
um
meant like if you're offended by something your client
no,
said.
I think that is what Shannon was
Okay.
actually asking. I think for I probably because of recent experiences, my father went through like a health
Oh,
issue, and like some of the clients that I coach are also dealing with parents with various health issues. So like I think that's where my mind went, like how do I manage my own emotional experience? But I love the idea of just being like, oh, like I am this that you're talking about. It's interesting that your perspective on it is XYZ. Tell me about it.
yeah.
I also think like I don't know. I don't know what I would do if I had a client who was like committed to a actually I think I do know what I would do. If I had a client who was committed to a perspective that I found like abhorrent personally, like if they were openly racist and like not doing the work to challenge themselves on
Mhm.
that, or like
Goodbye.
openly phobic about various identity and not interested in unpacking that,
Yeah.
that's not the client for me. I have no
Yeah.
interest in
Yeah.
supporting them in that way.
I've had people who I've never had this happen with a client, but I have had consultations where somebody like made their opinions about things I feel strongly around unknown. And I was like, I don't think this would be a good match. Like I've just said,
Hmm.
not because I'm like, I'm so offended and insulted by you. I'm just like, I think I might have a worldview that's not going to be supportive. Like, and I'll be fully transparent because this has never happened with a client. This has only ever happened on consults. If I'm on a consultation with someone and I'm like, because I'm mostly coaching around their business. So a lot of times the touchy subjects don't often come up.
Right.
Um, but if someone shares a lot on a consult, I'm like, well, they felt safe to tell me some things. I feel like that's a gift from the universe for me to
Hmm.
say, if I'm not interested in helping this person make more money and have more power in the world, I just won't work with them.
Yeah. And what a gift to learn that up
I
front.
do. I think it's a gift.
Yeah.
I've decided that I'm telling myself that. I don't know if it's true, but I'm just like, this is an important piece of information. I'm not interested in this person, being successful.
Yeah.
I don't want this person to be successful. Then that's like a total conflict of interest. How am I going to be their business coach?
Yeah. I think if it's someone who is on like who is unpacking certain
Sure.
worldviews, I might ask myself. So first of all, I would be transparent with the person.
Mm-hmm.
Like if they had a perspective, I might actually say, for the interest of this relationship, my perspective is actually the opposite. And like you can decide if maybe that means I'm not the coach for you.
Mm-hmm.
And this is only if I've decided, like,
Right.
yeah, I'm game for this. Like, I might put that out there.
Yeah.
And if they're like, this is the perspective I will be coming from, I'm not necessarily going to like force any of my worldview or opinions on you, but it is the perspective that I will be coming from. So I
Yeah.
might say something like that, but I would want to do some reflection on myself. Like what you said, if someone is like just has a worldview that I find gross and I do not want them to have more power, like absolutely I won't be their coach because I think
Yeah.
coaching is all about
Like if
helping
they
people
come
connect to
to
their
you with
power
like
and be
a
more
sexist
effective.
book about like
Right.
how to manage your woman. I want to write this book, Elena.
Right.
I don't think that's the great project you're signing up for.
No, I don't think I'm invested in that or the like Tradwife's Guide to Toppling Feminism or something. Like maybe I'm not the coach
That's probably
for
not.
that.
Yeah. What a gift to know that.
hmm What a gift that I will not be. I have the opportunity to opt out of contributing to that.
Yeah, and I mean, I know we're joking around a little bit, but I mean, there are professions where people don't have that option. Like regulated healthcare professions often don't have, at least where I live, they can't just like turn you away because they don't like you.
Yeah.
So
Which I
yeah, I
think
think
is great in certain contexts
I don't
and
know.
also,
I wouldn't want
you know,
someone like massaging me if they like hated me. They're like, oh,
oh, I was
her
thinking like a
again.
doctor. Like I'm glad that doctors do not are not I think I'm glad that doctors are not allowed to discriminate based I don't know. Um but yeah, I think it's an interesting question. It's mostly to be like perfectly transparent, it's mostly hypothetical. I don't know that I've had this happen. I have coached people with very different worldviews in the context of coaching for another program, which
Mhm.
has been interesting. And I guess for me that's a little bit different, especially because I haven't been coaching like I'm aligned with what I am actually coaching
Mhm.
them
Right,
on.
right.
I also maybe this is naive of me, but I feel like the for me like the core of coaching is to help people like guide themselves toward like greater self-connection, which I think in my opinion leads to like greater love and acceptance.
Yeah.
And so
No, that's naive. I think
I
that's beautiful.
thank you. But yeah, like I tend to think if a person is given space to actually like process through their fear, connect to like whatever is underneath that fear and like not be judged for that process, I think people do tend to move toward a more like loving and accepting worldview.
Yeah.
So I guess that's kind of how if I were coaching someone on a business that was like we are a white supremacist business. Like, yeah, no, thank you. Goodbye. But if there is someone who's like running an agnostic business who maybe has some problematic worldviews, I do think I'm okay, at least in like a more casual, like one-off basis in coaching them. That said, if they did say something that was like openly racist or misogynistic, I don't know how I would handle that, like on the call. I might say something. I don't know. How would you approach that? If someone like, if you were already in a coaching relationship with
Yeah.
someone and like they did say something that was like kind of
It's
awful.
I think it's hypothetical. Um, oh, no, it's not. I've had when I was a relationship coach, I've definitely had clients and client I would coach both partners often, and sometimes someone would say something sexist, and I'll let you imagine who that was, which partner of what
Hmm.
gender.
Hmm.
um and I would register it in my body, and I would say, like, how does that thought make you feel? Like,
Mm.
when you believe that, how does that help your relationship? When you feel like, when you say that, what response do you get? And I just kind of explore, not going, hey, that was a sexist, fucked up thing to say, even though maybe in my mind I'm like, I would tell you that in a personal relationship, but you're
Right.
here in as safe a place as I can make in a vulnerable position. I don't want to respond to what you're saying with reaction, because I actually welcome it and I want to see it. And that's what I've promised my clients, is a space where they don't have to apologize. They can actually say
Hmm.
what they think, and we can look at whether it's helping them or not. So I can, like,
Yeah.
bring it down to, in my body, hearing that as a woman, that felt like a rude comment. How do you think your partner feels when you're
Hmm.
directing that energy towards them? Like, I can tell you my perspective. And I kind of use my barometer as like a conversation thought, like a brain gymnastics with them.
Yeah.
And I have, maybe it is naive. Maybe our warm, cozy drinks are making it naive, making us naive. But I truly believe I have watched people change in the safety of, like, feeling seen, being heard, and actually having the time to question things that they are so used to, like, defending or not sharing. Like, there are topics that I think are probably off the table for me because I'm a human. But
Hmm.
for so many things in a coaching relationship, I can get myself interested in, like, why do you think that? Where did that come from? Where did you learn that? How old is that belief? Does that feel good when you say that? Where is that coming from? What part of you does that come from? Who taught you that?
Hmm.
Like, I can kind of go through the coachy questions around something, because usually if it feels bad for me as their container holder, it probably feels bad for them too.
Yeah. And even if it doesn't, that's fascinating and something to get curious about. Now I'm like kind of excited. I'm like, yeah, come
You're
to me
like,
with
like,
your your perspectives.
she'll help you write your book on how to keep your
I
woman
will
in
not do
line.
that. I will not do that. But I think what you're identifying like I think there's a distinction to be made around like uh, I don't even know what terminology to use. It's like relational investigation
Ooh, yeah,
almost,
yeah.
and like more goal-oriented, outcome-driven coaching
Mhm,
that I don't know if that's the right way of putting it, but like it feels like there is an important distinction to make there. Because I think, like, for me, the relational investigation piece of this is fascinating. And
mhm,
I have coached folks with a different, like, political affiliation
mhm,
on struggles that they were having with reconciling some of their like political ideologies and some of like the realities of what they were facing. And
mhm,
I loved it because it's so interesting. Like, coaching is all about questioning
mhm,
your worldview and exploring options outside of the options that you see available to you. So,
mhm.
like, for me, that was such a fruitful place to dig into. It was like there's so much nuance to it. It was so interesting. And I think I think partly how like you were able to like I think it required me to be able to maintain a little bit of emotional distance. I could not have had those conversations if I had felt personally or emotionally threatened.
Hmm.
That I just wouldn't have been able to coach in that moment. But
Yeah.
when I was able to do that, I loved that work. Um, but I think the more like goal-oriented stuff, that's more for me to decide like what do I want to be creating in the world? Do I want to be creating a more successful trad wife book? Maybe not. Maybe that's not the project for me. Am I interested
Oh
in
my God, we're gonna
creating
get
like
trolled. We're gonna get people saying, I heard you say tradwife on your podcast. And so clearly we have to send all of our tradwife influencers to email you and ask to be
oh
on your
my
podcast
God.
and drink a cocktail.
You know, things were always going to get weird with the combination of cocktails and coaching. It's been too long that we've been doing this without things getting weird. Um, but yeah, I think it for me it does come down to like what am I building by participating in this? Am I
Mhm.
building a more effective version of something that I think is like problematic? Or am I building like greater understanding, more space for self-connection, more relational resiliency? Those are things I'm interested in. The former is not really something that I'm personally interested in.
Yeah, so good. Ooh, it's like a juicy part two of last week's conversation.
I guess so. Yeah, this is like what last week's conversation looks like actually like in the coaching space.
Yeah.
And I do think like there are some things I think because of like aspects of my own identity, I am more equipped to
Yes.
navigate. Um, so I would want to be like honest with myself about what I am interested in and like capable of responsibly navigating.
Yeah, because at the same time, it's like, ooh, we could do this as a really interesting master level coaching exercise. But
Hmm.
then it's like, is it doing anything good for the world? Is it
Hmm.
helping this person if you spend more time? Like, if you then go have to go spend time with your coach, coaching about your client and their beliefs you think are messed up, but you're like sitting there, like, and how does that make you feel?
Yeah.
I don't think that that's necessarily like that's not why we started our coaching businesses, which is
Yeah.
I mean, I think why the more safety you can create early in the relationship to find out things that would be like a hell no for you
Hmm.
when taking on a client. It's really important. I think, yeah, like again, I don't think I've had this happen in years, but this did used to come up when I would coach couples because one person would often be like really into the idea of coaching and they really connected with me. And the other person was like skeptical and, was just doing it in hopes of like saving the relationship. Um, but sometimes things that were really surprising would come out in those relationships. And I would have to just like watch myself because I was like, this person feels safe enough to tell me something that they probably haven't
Hmm.
shared before. And I think it's super messed up. And I would never date someone who said this thing. But now we can do something. Like now we have trust. Now we have space. If I can hold this and handle it and find out where that came from and what's that about and is that helping your relationship with this other person. um
Hmm.
yeah, it's kind of like when people are willing to show you the ugly messy stuff too. I think it's fine to freak out, but I think as coaches we also maybe freak out internally and then take some time and decide and process and peer coach.
Yeah, and that I think that's also an opportunity maybe for like rupture and repair if
Mhm.
the person is available for it. Because I could see like I don't think it's a bad thing necessarily to be like, oh, that comment it like touched something kind
Yeah.
of t like difficult in me, and I just want to like name that, and I'm like,
I'm
okay, you
having a
don't need
hard
to
time
take care of
listening
me
to you
around
now
that.
that you've said this, and I want to
Yeah.
just, can we investigate it together?
Yeah, like how are you feeling? How did that feel to say? How did that like land with you? I think as opportunities to like deepen the relationship,
Yeah.
those moments can be very powerful. And I do like I hear you on the like barometer of trust piece because I'm not personally interested in a coaching relationship where like my clients feel like they have to hide pieces of themselves. I think
Mhm.
that's like a little bit counter to the project of coaching. So yeah, it's a tricky thing to navigate, I think.
So tricky. Yeah.
Yeah.